I am feeling truly grateful for this opportunity to share my humble experience when it comes to embracing your emotions, or not embracing them so much, as it always starts with the journey. I believe, like Noor said, it's very important that at this stage we're having a mental health pandemic, if you may. And it's time that we get connected with our emotions and understand they're here to guide us. They're not really monsters, but they are our friends. They're here to guide us. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about my own experience with navigating my own emotions. And I hope by the end of the session, I'll invite you to embrace your emotions, not label them as good or bad, and be able to name your emotions. It's very important that you start with naming your emotions. So before we start, very important is that I would like to invite you all to take a breath and make sure that you're grounded and you're here with us. So for us to do that, I'm going to do something called the box breathing. And with the box breathing, it's basically we inhale for a count of 4, and you hold your breath for a count of 4. And then you exhale on a count of 4, and then you hold your breath again for a count of 4, and then we do it again. This breathing, this technique is very famous. A lot of people in the military use it, the Navy use it. It helps you reduce your stress and overall improve your mood. So I recommend that there's so many different breathing techniques, but this is one, and I decided that we'd start our session today with that. So I invite you all to have your feet on the floor and your palms on your lap. Close your eyes, and I will guide you in this breathing exercise. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. I invite you now to open your eyes. And if you can tell us in the chat, how do you feel right now? How did you find that breathing exercise? Okay. So here we have a question for you. Do you ignore your emotions? You'll find on the screen that pop-up question. So I'll give you a few moments to understand, to know where you are right now. Do you ignore your emotions? Simply yes or no. I'll give you a moment and then we'll close this poll. Okay. Noor, can we see the results for that? So we have 25% are ignoring their emotions and 75% are not ignoring. So a big congratulations to those who are not ignoring their emotions, because they're here to help you. And that whoever it is that's ignoring your emotions, I hope by end of this session, you would feel enabled and empowered to be able to not ignore your emotions. So we have another question for you. And this question is, are you comfortable with your emotions? And you can either absolutely agree or agree, not sure, disagree, or absolutely disagree. Okay, Noor, can we see the results? So we have a bit of a, few of us are absolutely agreeing that you're comfortable, which is well done. And please stay there. And there are a few of us who are not so comfortable or not so sure about that. And thank you. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'd be able to feel a little bit more comfortable with your emotions and let us know at the very end. So thank you for that. So moving on, I would like to share a little bit of why. Let me just stop the share here. Okay. So what I'd like to share right now is a little bit about the story behind my interest in emotions. Yeah. Because in the end of the day, there's a story for it. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. I hope you're all up for that. So basically, when I started working at a very young age, I was around a little bit less than 20. And I remember later on in my career, I was around 20, 23 years old. And I used to go to my boss's office. Back then, we didn't have something called constructive criticism. It was mainly destructive criticism. And what happened is that every single time my boss used to call me in, Nadine, come in, and he'd give me that destructive criticism. And each time, not one time, not two times, but nearly every single time, I would burst into cries. I was tears, I was crying. I just couldn't control my emotions. And it was like becoming it's known. I go into his office and I start crying and I go out with all my tissues and my face red and all of that. I felt so embarrassed. I really felt so embarrassed. Like, what is this? This is I feel like a child, and I felt it was very unprofessional and inappropriate to be, showing my emotions at work. And I felt my emotions were actually coming in the way of my growth. Little did I know that back then there's a different approach of criticism. You need to have constructive criticism, not destructive. But that's a whole other story that we're not going to get into right now. So for me, the way to cope with this, what did I do? I decided that I'm just going to ignore my emotions, just pick up the plug as if they don't exist, because I felt my emotions were stopping me in my growth. They were stopping me in my journey in my career journey and my success. So I decided that I will, park them, ignore them, bury them. All of these words you can use, and we'll talk about them soon. And not surprisingly, a couple of years later, I did fall gravely sick because, when you don't take care of your emotions, it resonates in your body. A couple of years ago, I was doing this happiness course. And during the group work with my colleagues, one lady said, that emotion is energy in motion. I was like, what? What do you mean energy in motion? I was like, what? Uh-huh. And I was like, all right, if it's energy in motion, my coping mechanism of putting it aside doesn't work. No wonder that's not the way out. You need to feel it. And hence, this realization was years later in my life, because I'm telling you, when I was in my 20s, this was my coping mechanism with emotions. And it was like a big aha moment for me. And I realized in most of the work that I've been doing with a lot of in my facilitation and the work that I'm doing as coaching and what have you, when it comes to emotions, people are so uncomfortable talking about emotions. The energy becomes heavy. It's not easy. People are not able to navigate when it comes to emotions. So I have put down a couple of things together. I'm not an expert when it comes to emotions, but this is purely from my own due diligence, if you may, and my own interest in this topic was I really believe that this is paramount in addressing our mental health issues and the mental health pandemic that we're having, is that we can relate to our emotions and that we can eventually actually embrace them. So let me continue. So if we come to talk about what are emotions, the Oxford Dictionary says what? It's a noun. Strong feeling derived from one's circumstances, mood, or relationship with others. And as I explained to you, this new definition that came into my mind, came into my life, is emotion, energy in motion. Now, this word dates back all the way to the 16th century with a French word called émouvoir, which means to stir up or excite. The Latin, it's based on the Latin of mover, which is out, out, and move. So out movement. Now, the current meaning of emotions, believe it or not, is actually the current sense of the word is actually quite young. It's only since the 19th century. So it's not surprising that when it comes to emotions, we have so much more to learn. Yeah. So I'd ask you, and you can write that in the chat. How many, let's start with thoughts. How many thoughts do we have in a day? Nor do we have anybody writing in the chat? Okay. So we have around...
Wait, someone's raising their hand. We could allow you to talk if you wish to share.
The chat is disabled. Okay. Yes, please let them talk.
Please go ahead and raise your hand if you wish to talk.
So we have between 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day. That's so many, you can never really track about those thoughts. Now, when it comes to emotions, we have less. How many emotional experiences do you think we have in a day? So we have about 400 emotional experiences. Now, that's easier to track, and we actually feel them in the body. But emotions, there are many emotions. So we're going to talk about 4 main ones right now, but in actuality, there are around 34,000 emotions out there. And yet our vocabulary when it comes to emotions is very limited. We're not aware of how we can describe our emotions. And this is what I'd like to invite you to do now, is to look at this wheel. We have this emotional wheel. So we have 4 basic emotions. Just when it comes to colors, we have 3 primary colors. We have 4 main emotions. You could be sad, mad, happy, scared. And from there, you have all of these other emotions that are coming out. Now, next time when somebody comes and asks you, how are you feeling? Try to use some of these beautiful words that you can find in the wheel. Yeah. You need to name. So right now, today, if anybody asks me how am I feeling before this session, I'm going to say I'm a bit excited, and at the same time, I am anxious. And yes, you can have more than one feeling at the moment. But I'm not going to say I'm okay, because I now understand that saying okay or fine doesn't really mean anything. It's an empty answer. Yeah. So I invite you next time when anybody asks you, how are you? Dig deep and really name your emotion, name how you're feeling. And I have that elephant here because it's basically, remember the elephant, naming the elephant in the room. So it's like your emotion. You need to name the elephant in the room. I am feeling anxious. Yeah. So yeah, I felt anxious. So I say it rather than saying I'm okay. That doesn't really help. And from that emotional wheel, if you come and ask me, what is the most sought after emotion? It is happiness. And what is the most difficult to manage? It is anger. Yeah. And I would also invite you to talk about managing emotions, never controlling emotions, because you can never control emotions. You can manage them, but you can never control them. Just like with your children, for those who have children. So here I would like to invite you to some of the myths that we have, or the mishaps or misunderstandings that we tend to do when it comes to emotion. And I'll take you through a few of them, and hopefully that will help you in your own navigation of your own emotions. So one thing we start is by labeling. We say that emotions are good or bad. Please, if there's one thing you end up from this session getting out, stop labeling your emotion. An emotion is just an emotion, yeah? And we cannot belittle of them. We cannot say that emotions are stupid, because they're not. They're there to serve a purpose. They're there to send a message to us. And it's only for us to be able to read it, feel it and read it, to be able to see it. So emotions are not good or bad. They are emotions. So stop labeling emotions. There are negative emotions and there are positive emotions. That's fine. That's okay. But don't say these are good or bad. Another pitfall that we do, we always fall into, is that we identify with an emotion. Yeah. So don't do that. You are not your emotion. Yeah? So let's take an example of anger. Yeah. I would say, I am angry. That is an emotion, but I'm not an angry woman. Yeah. Right now I'm angry at that moment. Emotions are momentarily, usually they take around 90 seconds. So they move, they're not there forever. So do not identify yourself with an emotion. The one that I'm very good at doing is ignoring, and that's what I've done most of my adult life, is ignoring my emotion. Don't reject or ignore, because if you ignore or reject, what happens is going to boil up in your body. Yeah, think about a bottle. Yeah, if you have a bottle and the emotions inside the bottle, and you bottle it up, you close it. After a while, if there's any movement that happens, what's going to happen to the bottle is going to explode. And that explosion, by all means, is not healthy for your body. The bottle will be your body. That's not at all healthy for you. And one mistake that a lot of people are making is that identifying with emotion as a sign of weakness. It's not true. It's far from true. By showing your emotion, you're actually showing that you're human. You're a human being. And by showing your vulnerability, you can be such a great leader, because you're role modeling being a human. And that, of course, it has to be within the right context and within the same certain level of sharing. But this vulnerability can actually help you in progressing your achievements, your progress, your leadership style. So vulnerability is not a weakness. Showing your emotion is not a weakness. Another thing that we could do with our emotions is, just go to park it. Right now, I'm too busy. I can't deal with it now. I'll deal with it later. And sometimes that later never happens, and then it goes into being ignored. A lot of the times, parents, we fall into that trap of it's not time right now. I'm too busy for it. Or, that emotion is so, I don't understand this language of emotions. I only understand the rational language. So we are human beings. We need both rational and emotional. Yeah. So we need both the IQ and the EQ. We need them both to have a good balance between that, to be a balanced human being. And if you're going to park it at times, okay, particularly for that example with our children, tell us, okay, right now, you look into the eyes of your son or your daughter and tell them, I can't give you enough attention that you need right now. Give me this amount of time and I'll be totally yours. So you're parking it temporary. As long as you're doing it temporary and you're going back to that emotion, That's fine. But the problem is when you park it long term, then it doesn't really help. And another thing that is like completely burying it, you know, and I know a lot of people I know that, particularly when it comes to grief, they don't necessarily deal with it. And that wouldn't be very good, because it's again, emotion is energy. So what happens to that energy if you're burying it into your body and you're not expressing it? You're going to fall sick. Yeah. So it's very important that we don't fall into this trap, and understand that emotion is temporary, and you will never always feel this way. You know, it's temporary. It will pass. Things will pass. And those emotions have gifts for you. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later today. So how can we embrace our emotions? Yeah, I talked about that slightly at the very beginning. First thing is that question, how are you? Yeah, that is a basic question. How are you? When was the last time you answered how are you and you were very vulnerable and you really showed how you're feeling? That you're down and under, or that you're very agitated, or that you're really stressed? Are you really being honest with yourself and with those around you when you're answering that question? I personally have answered so many times, and I'm guilty of saying I'm fine, I'm okay. But really, that answer now, with this awareness that I have, it actually does annoy me, because whether I answer it or somebody else answers it, because in the end, it's one thing that is very empty. Yeah. So you need to name your emotion. Yeah. You need to name the elephant in the room. And we need to drop that masks that we're having. Oh, we're all fine and we're always good and we're always happy. Nobody's always happy. Nobody's always good. We are emotional human beings. So we will have our ups and we will have our downs, and it will continue like that. And that's totally normal and acceptable and okay. So next time you have that question of how are you, I please invite you, use one of those verbs that are in the emotional wheel and adjectives, and use that. And one other thing I'd like to invite you to do is think about not just the name of the emotion, but where are you feeling it in your body? Yeah. Notice the sensations in your body. Observe. Do you have any tightness in the throat, or butterflies in your stomach? Do you have a throbbing headache or tension in your neck? Where? Just notice where you have. When I used to, when I was in my 20s, I remember when every single time I go and did a presentation, I always got very anxious. And I used to always go to the toilet once or twice before the presentation. It was like standard. It would happen to me every time. Luckily now that doesn't really happen, but that's because I managed it and I noticed it and I really moved on. You need to manage your emotions. You need to address them. You can't ignore them. So what I leave with you with this very brief way of managing your emotions is naming it. Name your emotion. What is the emotion you're feeling? Accept it. Okay, right now I'm feeling angry. Feel the anger. You're feeling sad. Be with the sadness. Accept that emotion, and then move with that emotion. See what you need to do. Are you feeling sad? You need to just sit down and do a breathing exercise or do some meditation. You're feeling angry and you need to go out and for a nice walk in the nature, or for a swim or running. What movement needs to accompany that emotion? And you need to embrace that emotion. Yeah. And like in any other embrace, you have to let it go. Yeah. When you inquire, where are you feeling it in your body? And then at the very end, you need to thank the emotion, because the emotion is here to help you realize what needs to be done. Yeah. If you're feeling happy, I'm grateful and appreciative of something. If I'm feeling angry, I need to maybe put some borders. I didn't put enough borders in that relationship. I have a few healthy tips for you here. This is not just for emotions, just generally for good living, healthy living. You need obviously a balanced, healthy diet, regular exercise, good sleep, Mindfulness is really amazing, the benefits of it. Connecting with your body internally and your emotions, and connecting with friends and family. It's very important because laughter is the best medicine, and connecting with people who are bringing you up is very important. And please stop blaming, complaining, and judging. They are not going to help you with anything. They're going to bring you down, and they're going to let you feel a lot of negative emotions. Yeah, that will be most of your life will be negative emotions if you are living in that drama, a circle of blaming, complaining, and judging. Take breaks, take vacations. You're worthy of it. Journaling is really good, and you could also do gratitude journaling. Taking a cold shower, even if you can't take the full cold shower, but at the very end, putting on that cold temperature, it's proven to help you with your immunity, and it puts you in a better mood. So these are just some tips that I thought I'd share with you. And why are emotions so important? We as human beings, we tend to forget that we're human beings, and we're concentrating that we're human doings, and always busy in this life, busy doing things, achieving, succeeding. But we need to remember that we are human beings, and we have emotions, and we need to give emotions their space. We need to actually stop and rest and just be. Yeah? Enjoy the moment, enjoy life, have that, the living, enjoy the being alive, and not just always doing something. Yeah. So emotions are very important. And when we're able to connect with our emotions, we tend to operate more from the human being level rather than the human doing. Emotions are very helpful because they help us to communicate. If you're happy, all of a sudden you find you're a magnet. More people want to be around you when you're happy, if you haven't noticed. Yeah, they help us to act. If you suddenly touch something that's hot, yeah, and it hurts you, and then you suddenly remove your finger, that feeling, that emotion of hurt and pain actually is it's helping us, it's giving us our safety, the famous response of fight, flight, or freeze. So emotions and those feelings are very important. They help us to act quickly. And there's a very, very clear relationship between our emotions and our body. Yeah? We explained, if you bottle it up, the emotion, you're going to fall sick. It could be insomnia, it could be a headache, it could appear in so many, it could be also many other diseases that can happen just because if you're not really connecting to your emotions. And everything is connected. Yeah? Emotions and thoughts are connected. The author of Eat, Pray, and Love has a very interesting quote about this. She says, "Your emotions are the slaves to your thoughts, and you are the slave to your emotions." So I invite you to break free from any slavery you have to your emotions and just embrace your emotions, befriend your emotions. Your emotions are here to guide you. And that link with regards to the body, anger, if you're very angry, it's going to weaken your liver. If there's a lot of fear, it's going to you're going to weaken your kidneys. Stress is going to work on the heart and the brain. And there's a lot more that you can read more from Louise Hay that's doing that very clear connection between emotions and the body. So what are the gifts of emotions? Yeah, there are a lot of gifts to emotions. I would like, I'm going to play a video for you right now, but before, I'm just going to, like I said, emotions are your guide. Yeah. So when you're feeling angry, there's something that needs to be protected, and you need to set boundaries for yourself or for others. If you're feeling sad, then something needs to be released. Yeah. If you're feeling fear, then there's an action that needs to be taken, or needs a moment of clarity. If you're feeling happy, then you need to show appreciation and gratitude to something. So these are just a few of them. I will play this video right now.
ابدأ مشروعك أونلاين مع GoDaddy. سجل الدومين المثالي لعملك، أنشئ موقع ويب أو بيع عبر الإنترنت، احمي موقعك.
One second. Give me a moment. I will share it right away.
Are you willing to feel your feelings? Brought to you by the Conscious Leadership Group. Find them on the web at www.conscious.is. Conscious leaders value feelings, theirs and others. Many leaders believe that feelings must be avoided at all costs. Their mantra is just the facts, data only. We believe this mantra is madness. First, because it's impossible to live and lead this way. And second, because even if we could, we'd be missing one of the greatest resources for decision-making, team building, and creativity. Some studies indicate that EQ, emotional intelligence, is more important to a leader than IQ. Your heart is at least as important as your head. Emotional intelligence begins with becoming emotionally literate. Emotional literacy begins with knowing what a feeling is. We define a feeling as energy in motion, emotion. This energy shows up as sensations in and on the body. Emotions are often attached to thoughts, but they're not thoughts. Emotions don't occur in the mind, they occur in the body. Butterflies in the belly, pressure in the chest, constriction in the throat, tears in the eyes, tightness in the shoulders or jaw. Conscious leaders connect to their bodies and learn the language of sensations. Emotions come and go. The sensations in the body last less than 90 seconds. The body knows how to allow the sensations and how to let them go. Most leaders override the body. They suppress and deny emotions, causing energy to get stuck in the body. This unreleased emotional energy is the cause of much physical, psychological, and relational suffering. Here's how to release emotion. 1. Make a commitment to feel your feelings. Most leaders are committed to not feeling their feelings. 2. When a feeling comes, name it. We teach leaders that there are 5 core feelings. We recommend that you name your feelings with one of these 5 words: anger, fear, sadness, joy, and sexual feelings, which many people choose to call creative feelings. 3. Locate the feeling in your body. Get out of your head and into your body. Stop thinking thoughts as best you can and start feeling sensations. Simply ask, where is this feeling in my body? Answers like my stomach, jaw, neck, fists, back are what you're looking for. 4. Describe the sensations. What are the sensations doing? Buzzing, popping, twisting, pulsing, heating, swirling, pinching. 5. Welcome the sensation. This is counterintuitive. Most people are trying to get rid of feelings, especially the ones they label as bad. But the axiom is true here. What we resist persists. Welcome the sensations with a few breaths of acceptance. Simply allow them to be here as best you can. Just this practice alone of accepting the sensation will often allow it to release and move through the body. 6. Match the sensation. If the sensation remains, match it with sound and movement. Ask yourself, if this sensation could make a sound, what would it be? If I were to match it with movement, what would I do? Babies do this naturally. You were once a baby too. You've just forgotten how easy this can be. They cry, scream, wiggle, shake, and crunch their faces. In a few moments, the emotion is gone and they return to presence. You can do the same. 7. Question the emotion. The question you ask the emotion once you've released the sensations is this one: what are you here to show me? Emotions are filled with wisdom. Here are some of the things they are here to show us. A. Anger. What or who is no longer of service to me or the collective and needs to be changed or even ended? B. Fear. What needs to be learned or faced? C. Sadness. What or who do I need to let go of and grieve so that something new can emerge? D. Joy. What or whom do I need to appreciate fully and celebrate completely? E. Sexual or creative. What do I need to create and bring into the world? Feelings come. They last less than 90 seconds if we feel them fully and release them through our bodies. They leave behind tremendous wisdom and knowing. Are you willing to feel your feelings? Are you willing to feel your feelings? Brought to you by the Conscious Leadership Group.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that video. I'd like to invite you to think about what emotion would you like to invite in your life? So yes, we said there are positive emotions and there are negative emotions. This was part of my course when I was taking my happiness coaching certificate. Our coach told us, we've all been named by our parents, and we have this name where you have absolutely nothing, you have no choice in. So when it comes to, positive emotion, and specifically in that course, it was happiness, he asked us, what would you like to invite? What's your name? What would you like to rename yourself? So for me, I decided that this is something that I would like to invite in my life, and that is joy. So my name is Joy, and I'm not joyful all the time. However, I would love to invite joy in my life and have, be able to be a form of inviting, to be able to have, spread joy to those around me, whether be it with my simple smile, with the words I do, or the work that I do, the gestures, all of that. I hope I'm able to spread joy to those around me and to myself. So I leave you with that question. What emotion would you like to invite in your own life? As I mentioned to you earlier, happiness is one of the most sought after emotions. So if you are looking for happiness in your life, just a few things that I'd, leave as tips for you to do. Every day, write 5 things you're grateful for. Gratitude has been known, it's actually one of the healthiest emotions, if you may. So invite gratitude into your life. Have a gratitude practice. And bit by bit, things will look different. You will see things a lot more positive. Smiling is has such an amazing impact. When you smile to a complete stranger and that stranger smiles back, you feel good. Yeah. So I invite you, do a little exercise. Count the number of smiles you have during the day. Yeah. When we were children, we used to smile a lot. Kids, babies, they would actually smile a very high number of smiles, 150 to 200 times per day. But as we grow older and we become adults and we have all the responsibilities in life, we forget to smile. And sadly to say, on average, an adult smiles only 15 times a day. But if you are conscious about it and you count your smiles and you try to invite more smiles in your life, you can actually beat that average of 15 times per day. And when you are in that mode of smiling, good things happen to you. And one thing when we're about smiling, if you do this basic exercise, and if you put your hands up in the air, yeah, as if you're up in the sky, I want to invite you, try to look sad. Can you? Can you be sad when you're open like this? It's very difficult. So let's do it the other way around. Now I want you to, fold your arms and look down and try to be happy. It's very difficult. And the reason behind that is that when you're open, when you're open to receive, when you're happy, it's like you're actually, if you're standing, it's like you're the letter Y for yes, yeah? And you're smiling, it's very difficult for you to be sad. It cannot be. When you're open, you cannot be sad. But when you're closed and you're closing down and you're disconnecting, because like this, you're disconnecting, you're protecting yourself, it's impossible to be happy. You can't smile, you're going to be sad. So invite more openness into your life. Yeah. And like I said, embrace your energy, emotion, whatever it is you're feeling. And stop this, vicious cycle of blaming, complaining, and justifying. It doesn't serve you. Once you learn that it doesn't serve you, I'm sure you'll be able to let it go. Okay, so before I end, we would like to ask you one more time. So after this webinar, will you ignore your emotions? Okay, let's see the results. No, that's amazing. Very happy to hear that. All right. So I know that you might be interested to know a little bit more about this topic. So what I have here, these are some great books you could have, I already mentioned Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. She's got incredible work relating the body and the emotion, and it's really very quite eye-opening. And of course, we have Daniel Goleman, father of EQ. He's got a lot on that. I'm actually reading the smaller version of the EQ book, the one that he did with the last edition. You have Susan David with Emotional Agility and Brené Brown, Dare to Lead, and Danielle with Thinking Fast and Slow. So these are just a few things that for you, if you'd like to further read on the topic. And I just would like to remind you again, emotion is energy in motion, and energy follows attention. So remember, what you choose to focus on will grow. So if you're focusing on love or anxiety, whether be it this or that, that will grow. So be careful, be selective of what you focus on. Be careful of your thoughts. And I invite you all at the end of the day to name the emotion that you're having, connect with it, feel it in your body, and embrace your own emotions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you for this beautiful and insightful webinar. It changes your perspective. Just in 1 hour, your thoughts can really be modified. I'm sure if we practice mindfulness, for me, I related it to mindfulness. We can definitely be more self-aware and at least embrace our emotions. We will be moving on to the questions. We do have a few questions, so I will be starting with the first one. The first one is, when you mentioned in one of your slides that emotions are there for 90 seconds. What about those of us who navigate and experience challenging emotions for hours, days, weeks, and months?
Okay, that's a very good question. And thank you for that, Kit. If you look at the video, they actually mentioned it in the video. So the key thing for it to take 90 seconds is when you release it. When you actually feel the emotion and you release it. So if you are having that challenge that it's been there for a while, that means you haven't gone through the cycle of the energy in motion and letting it go. And the best thing for this is actually to seek support and help, because obviously if it's been taking months, it depends again, how long is it? If it's something that's been happening for hours or days, maybe you just need to sit with yourself and you're able to take care of it. Yeah. If it's not working on your own, then please do go ahead and ask for support. There are sometimes some techniques that might help if you're going to work on it on your own. Is like if you're, let's take anger. Yeah, if there's some anger in you and you're not able to release it, but I would advise you to write a letter. It could be to a person who you're angry, or it could be to yourself, you're angry about yourself. Just write that letter, everything, just write it all down. And then light it up and burn it. Yeah, in a safe way, please. I don't have no accident prone, please. So that would help. But then you need to really sit with yourself and understand and be honest. Yeah, be honest. What is it that you're feeling? Name. If you try the technique, name it. Maybe you're not really getting the right word for it. Yeah. Sometimes you just need to name the elephant. What is it that you're feeling? And if you're able to name it, okay, so I'm feeling anxious, for instance. What do I need? I need movement, because this is energy. So what kind of movement do I need that will help me let that anxiousness move in my body and I'm able to release it? Because remember, you need to accept it, embrace it. And once you cannot, there is no embrace that lasts forever. You need to let it go. Yeah. So if you name it correctly and you do the right movement for that, it should work. And if not, you always have people to help you. And do not feel that you're weak when you ask for help. Not at all. It's strength when you are having that self-awareness. And guys, hey, I need help. That is strength. That is self-awareness. That is courage. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Nadine. So it's not really a question. I would say it's a concern with someone who's being honest with us and with her or himself. She said, like she or he, I don't know, that like I do answer honestly, but the problem is that sometimes he is referring to the emotions. I feel I do not understand my emotions or not know what to do afterwards.
Okay, that's very normal. Emotions are not easy to understand. So don't think we all have been there and we all will be there. It's the most important thing is knowing that, I'm confused. I don't know exactly where I am, but you just sit with yourself. Yeah. Sit with yourself and try to, what is it that I'm feeling right now? Yep. A good way of understanding and connecting with your body and your emotions is meditating. So I would invite you to do some meditation and have an intention to that meditation. Before you meditate, I want to understand, what am I feeling? And start with that intention. And the longer you meditate, as long as you can, 10 minutes, 20, 30, even an hour, it depends on how experienced you are with meditation, the more connected you will be with yourself and you'll be able to understand. But don't be too harsh on yourself. It's okay. We are complicated people. We are complicated creatures. You cannot really understand. We will never understand ourselves all the time, but not knowing that I don't understand myself is a good step first. You know what? True. I don't know why am I the way I am right now, but that's okay. I'm respecting that space. Don't judge yourself. Let it be. Name it. Maybe now is not the time to do any serious commitments or decisions. Take your time.
I believe that the next question is very much related to the last part you mentioned. What role does self-awareness play in embracing emotions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So self-awareness is the first step. Self-awareness is the first step. And it is actually the first step when it comes to emotional intelligence, but we're not really going into the whole EQ cycle here. We're just talking about naming your emotions, which is the first step of self-awareness. And naming it, and you have the emotional wheel, go back to that. And if you're not able to we have so much vocabulary there that we could use, and I encourage you to use that.
There are a few questions and comments that are similar. I believe your answer would be similar. I'm going to ask both and combined. So basically, one person is mentioning that why do some people think that if they express their emotions, they would lose their honor or reputation or their self-image? And some people, I guess it's come from a difficult background where they want to protect themselves. Protecting themselves is key. So actually showing that you're vulnerable somehow is a weakness, I would say. Now, I'm actually really interested in hearing your thoughts, Nadine, and listening to your opinion on the matter, because I believe in our part of the world, this is very much very common, where people actually have difficulty expressing their feelings and like truly embracing their emotions. It could be a way of I see it personally, it's a way of parenting. And it has a lot with how we were brought up. And I do believe, being a mom of a 6-year-old, I'm aware and I do believe that it is a challenge in our part of the world, but at least we are aware and we want to kind of correct this in our bringing and to give the space to our children. But go ahead, and I would like to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to comment on your comment first, and then I'll go to the question. So when it comes to our children, this is one thing that I have, as a parent, I have done also, is when they start throwing a tantrum and being angry, what do we say? Don't be angry. You shouldn't be angry. But that is so wrong. What we need to do is we need to have empathy. We need to, I understand, I can feel your anger. I feel that you're angry because of this. Once you do that recognition, once the child feels that validation, that you can see that you're angry and you're mirroring that, their heartbeat is going to go down. They're going to calm down. So we really need to stop this. It comes back to the labeling, it's good or bad. The emotion is there. Now, with regards to showing vulnerability, showing vulnerability, it takes a lot of emotional intelligence, because you can show too much vulnerability and then you would lose face, and that would be too much. However, showing some form of vulnerability can actually help you in what you're trying to achieve. So there's a balance there. Yeah, it's never, and there is no one size fits all. It's per the context, per the situation. So being vulnerable, it's been proven. I mean, if you look at the best leaders in the world, when they're having Corona, they were actually the best countries managing it, were the ones with female heads of state who had who were very empathetic, who had emotions, who were emotional beings. And they were the ones who are actually able to manage the pandemic better than other countries. So showing your vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, and it's been proven time and again. However, there are biases that we're working against right now, so it's not going to happen overnight. But just hang in there, and you need to read the situation well and be vulnerable to an okay extent, to a state that you would not feel like. For instance, if you take a very simple example, you're working in a company, or you're studying in a university, and you have a group that you're working with, you're not feeling well. Yeah, you just tell them, I'm not feeling well, I'm having some trouble, I won't be able to come in tomorrow, I need time alone to have some issues, personal issues. I was vulnerable, I shared something, however, I wasn't too vulnerable. Yeah, I didn't go and say that I've been through a traumatic experience of X, Y, or Z. I didn't go that, because I don't want to share that right now. I don't think that's going to help me in that situation. So that's a judgment that you need to make, understanding the level of sharing. I hope that answers that question.
Yes, actually, someone commented on this matter that basically you have to assess the situation and act upon it, and share whatever you feel is right to share at the specific moment. There's one person actually who kind of who gave a specific example that he or she had showed disappointment and anger emotions towards a colleague, and because of her behavior, and then that colleague avoids her later on, and sometimes eventually she feels regret showing her emotions, and has trust issues towards her or his colleague. So there's a relationship issue here. Like one is really showing some sort of anger, and the other one's avoiding the other person. So the person is asking, how can they fix themselves, like with this anger, like toward dealing with the anger towards the employee, or is he like overthinking the situation?
Okay, so sometimes we get into situations, and I personally, it happened to me several times, where the reaction of the person in front of me is not necessarily exactly what I wanted, and I feel kind of like I need to go back, and sometimes I need to apologize. That's fine. I go back and I apologize. Last time when I talked to you about so and so, I think I went a bit too much, and that recognition is supposed to put you at ease, because then you're doing your part. You don't need to overthink it. If you feel that you overdid it, we all do. It's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just go and talk to her or him and tell them that I'm apologize for X, Y, Z. This is, I was feeling X, Y, and Z, and that's why I did that, blah, blah. And you just elaborate on the situation. Now, there's two reactions to that. You're either going to get empathy, I understand, and thank you for coming to me, and and you patch up and you go on. And you can get another reaction is like, you know what, I don't accept this, and that was too much, and I cannot forget. Whatever the reaction is, you should be okay with, because that's their issue. How they are reacting, they have their own baggage, they have their own emotions to deal with, and you're not their therapist to help them with that. Yeah, but at least you would feel at ease that you spoke up and you said that this is this relationship matters to me, and I'm really sorry that it's bothered you, and I hope you can forgive me and we move on. You get the forgiveness, fine. You don't get the forgiveness, it's also still fine. So don't evaluate yourself on that. And you take that as a learning. Next time, if you're going to get into that overwhelming emotion, try breathing. Breathing always works, count to 10 backwards, or need to excuse yourself from the room and go out. It's not easy. Sometimes you can do it and sometimes you can't. Again, don't be too hard on yourself, but keep trying. You'll get there.
Thank you, Nadine. So I will be moving to our last question before we wrap up. Someone is asking, how can we really trust our emotions or understand where they are coming from when the perception of the world is usually distorted in the case of having intrusive thoughts? It's an interesting question.
I need to read that one. That was towards the last one, is it?
No, it's the second one on anonymous attendee.
Okay.
452. Do you see it?
Okay.
And the open
Yeah. Okay, so the in the end of the day, your emotions should be internal. Don't get confused with the outside world, because the outside world is the outside world. You have absolutely no control or understanding of what's happening out there. What you do understand and what you can manage is you. Yeah. So you just need to sit with yourself and try to understand. There's not trusting your emotion it's not a matter of trusting it, because the emotions are there to guide you. If you're a guide, you need to trust. Actually, there is a matter of trust here. Actually, you do need to trust your guide. So you need to trust your instinct, and you need to trust your emotion, and not label them, and not judge them, and not be mad at yourself when you get angry or you get upset or you get nervous. You have every right for that particular situation to happen like that. Don't be too hard on yourself. And if you're just try to understand and sit with yourself, and journaling definitely helps. Meditation and journaling, and sitting with yourself and having this quiet time of trying to process things that are happening, and maybe actually sitting with people who they could actually give insight to you, and you can have that one-to-one with a good friend of yours. I hope that helps.
On behalf of Mentee and Mentor Arabia, I'd like to thank Nadine for her beautiful session today. You can learn more about Mentee or Mentor Arabia and the website links I have already shared in the chat box. Thank you all for attending. I hope you all enjoyed the session, and hope to see you soon. Goodbye. Would you like to add anything, Nadine?
Thank you all so very much, and I'll be happy to connect with you all on LinkedIn.